Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Meta One Design Headquarters, and we are back for another episode of Beyond the NFT. My name is Sinful, and I am your host for tonight's show. Before we get started, definitely want to give a bunch of shout outs here. I see that the headquarters is starting to fill up. I see Brittany in the building. Welcome, Chrono T. Derek is in the house. Hello, Dr. Drip. Welcome, welcome, Fancy. And we have Massa Waynes joining us tonight. So nice to see you, Mr. J. Stickle. What up, Risk? And hello, Toxic Waifu. So nice to see you all. I am truly thankful to have each and every one of you in my life, as well as everyone else that is, watching from any streaming platforms. We're currently live on Twitch, YouTube, X, Kick, and Decentraland. So, before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Bucktown MMA. Founded by our friend Jay, Bucktown is a mixed martial arts program whose mission is to empower youth and young combat athletes all around the world. If you would like to learn more, head over to bucktown.org/support, and there you could learn a little more about you can learn a little more about Bucktown, what they do for their students, and just kids all around the world, opening programs in New Jersey, Chile, Mexico, and the future is bright for them. So I'm sure there will be plenty more places where this program will reach. And yeah, you could also, scroll down a little bit and pick up some merch, or you could even pick up some NFTs. All proceedings go back to the program. And I would also like to announce that the Mew merch shop is now live. So head over to the merch store and get yourself a Mew hoodie or some accessories. And remember, any purchase of a Mew hoodie of any design will make you eligible to receive the Galaxy Mew hoodie by SRJH and myself. And lastly, I would like to give a special shout out to those of you that have taken the time to check out the store and purchased some merch. Big shout out to Kanessa, Unknower, Fancy, Rustan, Rishi Girl, Tangy, Zam, Massa Waynes, Mariana, and Jen. Thank you so much for helping keep the dream alive. And now that all the announcements are done with, it it is a great pleasure to introduce NateGuppy, educator and co-host at NFT Record Shop. Welcome, Nate. How are you doing this evening?
It's great to be here, Sinful. Thanks so much for having me and inviting me on.
I mean, it's been a long time coming. I know I've been kind of hinting that I wanted to have the NFT Record Shop featured here on Beyond the NFT for quite some time now. So I'm kind of happy that you did reply to my DM, and now we're here. So usually, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's great to be recognized for a community effort like the Record Shop, because we're just trying to really be there for creators, Web3 musicians, but everyone who's kind of doing their own thing, to keep track of kind of the broad scope of the frontier we're on. It really does take a village to keep track of so many different fronts and so many different things that are happening, different platforms coming out. And so it essentially started as a crowdsourced weekly or bi-weekly news service that really, as a show, we encourage everyone to check in with their whips and different things that they're doing. But it's sort of a double-edged sword in the sense that we get to look at what they're doing, but they also talk about what they're doing it on, where they're releasing these things, and it really keeps everyone up to speed, one kind of update at a time, one whip at a time that people are releasing. And it's been now almost 2 years with Pop-Up Record Shop.
Wow, almost 2 years. Okay, nice. I mean, my personal saying is what consistency is definitely key, especially like in a new space, like a new environment such as Web3. So like usually I like to begin the show by passing the mic over to my guests and just allowing you the opportunity to give yourself that proper introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I myself originally started kind of undoxed in the space. I found it early on. Some friends of mine were doing development work for Bitcoin.org that early. So, bricked the white paper, bricked a whole lot of other things early, and could have easily felt bad about it because I didn't turn nothing into a 6, 8, or 9-figure sum in some cases, like some of my friends did from the earliest days of Bitcoin. And so it would have been super easy for me to sit out the Web3 aspect of this because of just being salty, right? Just being annoyed that I had every opportunity to be early when Bitcoin was in the pizza Bitcoin days and wasn't. And if you fast forward to this past, 2 autumns ago now, or 3 autumns ago, when 2021 rolled around, I happened to get lucky. I was following some PFP communities. I was following. First, I was really into hash masks, which was a really OG community, one that you see Gordon Goner himself from Bored Ape shout out as an early PFP community. And so I was around there and got lucky and had bought a PFP there for a lot of money for me at the time. And then shortly after, I had bought a Crypto Mori, which I got very lucky. The Crypto Mori was a great community, but when I bought it, I bought a rare one and got a great deal on it. And shortly after was the Alien Friends mint, which, if anyone's aware, that one Crypto Mori's got whitelisted for, and it was 0.02 ETH, which at the time was about $60. And if you were on the whitelist, you got 10 mints. Well, that project was one of the ones that was a huge success story. I think the floor at one point was 4 ETH, and having minted 10, essentially, I got very, very lucky. And again, if I had decided to be salty about Bitcoin and everything else and sat out, those 2 key buys where I bought a hash mask, followed people in this space, and then got lucky on a Crypto Mori I sniped, and then a series of other lucky things kind of cascading down, that led me into the space. And shortly after that, something that I minted from Alien Friends, I got a DM one day that looked like the ruggiest shit on earth from Deez himself, saying, "Hey man, do you own that crazy rare Super GM Alien Friend? I want it. I have its twin. My wife has it, and I want that one." And at the time, I had it listed for 30 ETH since I minted it, and I turned down north of 1 ETH bids when it was still pennies on it. And so my friends all said I was insane, but I just really thought I was going to be able to do it. And Gary Vee and some others rolled into that project not long after. And when Deez reached out to me, it was very surreal because I thought I was getting rugged, sort of, like in my head. So I was like, just go through the motions of the negotiation and stuff, and managed to do it, and managed to trade something I minted for $60 essentially into a mutant ape and a bag from basically nowhere, which I've since sold. But if you look at my current PFP here, that mutant, which has the Deez 3D glasses and everything, was a great grab. And I'd never planned to join Yuga, to join Bored Apes. Bored Apes themselves were never a project I was super into anyway, and happened to just get lucky with Diamond Hands. And as all that was happening, right, that's when kind of my growth in the space ticked up a little bit. And on top of that, I started getting into my original hobbies, which I've always been a journalist by training, a writer. I've always been into electronic music, and it was something I did on my own. But in this space, those things weren't connected until I met Abel Okagawa. And we had a little space called the Pop-Up Record Shop where we would come on and sit here and debate beats and debate history and get deep into the weeds on a lot of stuff we love to do and we've all been a part of. And I realized pretty fast that community-wise and just sustainability-wise, the shop was the direction to go. And I sort of got away from PFPs 6 months before everything really went to shit. And I count myself as really blessed that way, to have connected with a community and sort of gotten away from the pump and the social media rating mindset into the quality connection stuff. And my original history, professionally and otherwise, I have a history in writing. I did PR early for Red Bull Music Academy. I did some articles and features for BPM magazine. And I told you guys before, I was a flyer kid early on in the late 90s, early 2000s for raves and shows because it was the only way not to get carded. So it's a history. I got lucky that I lived that history from a very young age, where I went out from my teenage years until my early 20s, basically, and saw every DJ I ever wanted to, and was at just so many events and didn't have to pay for them because I was working. And so having that history behind me, I never really thought of it as anything musically for myself. And it wasn't until I floored off my ape. I've been hanging out with all the music nerds at the pop-up record shop, talking about how just do the damn thing. If you really want to get into creating, you just got to start doing it. And I thought to myself, if I want to preach that doctrine, I got to live by it. And as soon as I thought that, I floored my ape, and I spent a few $1,000s on gear for myself to jump into this mix with DJing and with sort of trying to be my own truth, in the sense of I can't encourage other people to put aside their all the perceived slights or the things that we always talk ourselves out of creative enterprises with, all the imposter syndroming and all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. Well, I got burnt out on that, because hanging out with people that are active, that do things, that are constantly pursuing their dreams, it's contagious. And so I got lucky in the sense that I created a self-fulfilling prophecy. Later on, was able to dump my mutant ape and jumped right in with both feet into gear. And I've been doing that for almost a year now, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, there's nothing better than to, come into the space and, like as you mentioned, you got lucky when you entered these communities, these high value communities early on, and managed to in a way like accumulate a bag, and then kind of it's always unfortunate when you have to let go of a PFP, but like it but it's not unfortunate when you take those funds and reinvest into yourself and into your community and into something that you truly want to build for yourself. So I mean, I feel like that could be the Web3 kind of like the Web3 dream story, like coming in space, making the bag, and then reinvesting out. Let's see. I see Massa Wayne saying, if there's a QA, I wanna I wanna know what his. Oh, okay. Massa Wayne has a question. She wants to know what your favorite artist was that you saw as a flyer boy.
Ooh, that's a tough one, because I honestly, I got to see a whole ton of classics, like the Belleville Three, which is Derek May, Juan Atkins, and Derek Carter. Or no, let me think. Is that Derek Carter? Who's the third? I think no, it's Derek May, actually. Derek May, not Derek Carter. But I got to see a lot of the Detroit classic DJs. I got to see DJ Sneak, if anyone's a Chicago house head. I got to see, the only one I didn't see that I regret, I remember that way more clearly, which is DJ Shadow, who Introducing, still one of my favorite records. It's just great on a drive, but never got to see Shadow. But let me think. Best turntablist I ever saw, it's going to sound cliche, but it's Qbert. I mean, I saw him do wave twisters without headphones. His headphones weren't working well, and he just threw them aside like, I don't need these, and proceeded to scratch like an 8-channel octagonal fader as if it was his job, like just insane. And so I got to give the tip of the hat, turntablism mechanic-wise. Qbert, way up there. Rock Rada from the Executioners, saw him a dozen times, and every time is shallow as body tricks can seem with scratching and shit. You're talking about a guy who has been up to it since the first day of DJing, essentially, almost. Goes back to the Grandmaster DXT type of days, back when White Lines was on the radio, that kind of stuff, like 70s, 80s type of scratching. So like I got to see them. And then as far as like electronic music, just so many. I got to see Planet of the Drums, which is Diesel Boy, AK-1200, and Dara. I saw that tour a couple times, and I saw it when the Jungle Room wasn't even the second sound area. It was like the attic over the second sound area, where it was like, they still killed it as if they were in front of an arena, like these days those guys would book like 30, 40,000 people probably. And I think the times I saw them, it was like 500. So I would put them towards the top of the list for sure. But so many, I just got lucky to catch so many acts during the late 90s and early 2000s where just because I had a flyer crew, I stocked them all. I had friends that I paid with comps that would go to every show anyway. I was paying people with comps. And so having just that ability to go see, go out 4 nights a week from the time I was like in high school or like a sophomore until in my 20s when I eventually burned out a little bit, it was just amazing. I got really lucky. I count that in the same kind of vein of luck as I had in Web3, just more culturally then. And, because tickets were expensive. And so I was really blessed to be able to go out 4 or 5 nights a week and see anyone that came to town and meet them too. Because my friends would often give me the limit.
I mean, that's amazing. And in all honesty, as like I'm sitting here listening to your story, listening to all these incredible individuals that you got the opportunity of getting to see and meet and promote. Perhaps maybe we can even change it to like from got lucky to you were at the right place at the right time. You were where, or I mean, you were where you were destined to be. More like fate.
Yeah, for sure. And I allowed myself to be open to the opportunity being possible, right? Just like listing something at 30 ETH when you mint it for pennies, right? It's all a vision. It's all lofty until it's reality, and no one else can see your vision for you, and no one else can dictate what your reality is in that sense. If you think something is going to hit a certain price and you're willing to wait, that reality for you is may be different than someone else's, but that being able to manifest and being crazy enough to believe, I think at my core, I've been a believer or seeker in that sense on a lot of different things. And so being willing to be crazy enough to believe you can do it is where it all starts, at least for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely being crazy enough to see it, and I feel like even a lot of the times it's like the vision, not even you can see like how big that vision will actually be. Like, you may say, I want to, let's say, I want to come in and build my own community, and I know it's going to be a slow grind, but then all of a sudden, like, you start to see how it just like amplifies and it actually like ripples throughout the entire space where you start to attract the people that you want to attract and you want to be around.
Yeah, and I think that's really it too. We talked about consistency in spaces, and you see it a lot. People say, "I'm starting a space," and it feels kind of glamorous in a weird way, right? Like you're starting a podcast or a show until no one shows up, and that's where you have to be self-satisfied enough with what you're doing, or have other people like the pop-up record shop early on was really Abel, Sui, and I getting together to argue and chat beats and make each other laugh and troll each other, and slowly but surely it went from all three of us switching phones to we had a main. Originally, you had to have 500 followers to even start a space, so we didn't even have a main for a long time because we didn't think we could do a space from there until they removed that restriction. And originally, we were just happy to show up and argue with each other. And even now, we don't really go too hard on the flyering or the shilling of the show, but we have, for people that are deep followers of electronic music or other things, we've had just crazy surprises where like a founder of Mowax Records came up on stage when we were talking about DJ Shadow one day, and he was telling us about doing the clearance paperwork for introducing, and we're like, holy shit, this looks like a plan, right? Like this guy, it looks like we just pinged a guest from Mowax, like a founder of Mowax Records, which people don't know. Mowax was like Fatboy Slim's early label and a bunch of others, so it's like a really OG electronic music label. And so to have one of the founders come up and tell us, and then also he told us like Portishead had spent that summer on his couch and made one of their albums actually hanging out at his house while he was doing the paperwork for Shadow shit.
Oh man,
So
I
it was
love
just
that.
crazy.
That is amazing. Like, and yeah, that's another crazy thing about even just Web3. Just all, you could be hosting your space, dedicated to music, and then all of a sudden you never know who pops in to your space and comes and shares their experiences with you, or even just like tells you who they are. Let's see. And I do see that we have about 17 people in world. If you have any questions so far for our guests, either drop them in the chat on Decentraland or drop them on the Twitch chat in case I don't see them in the Decentraland chat. Or like even you're even invited to come up on into the community building Decentraland stage chat, and we'll have you up and let you ask your question in person. Um, I, I enjoyed kind of listening to you kind of talk about the beginnings of the NFT record shop. Here, let me switch over to the scene. Because you never really know what direction these kinds of concepts, these these things may take you. Like I personally have that same experience. I host those the Saturday community building Decentraland spaces with Ganessa, and upon starting these spaces, we knew what our mission was. We knew that we wanted to have a space for our Decentraland community to be able to talk about current issues that were happening in Decentraland, as well as like just express their thoughts and their feelings like on everything that was happening. And we didn't think that anyone would join us at all. Like we both thought that Canesso and I would just go live and we'll sit there for about an hour. We'll just talk to each other, talk shit, and laugh and call it a week and see you back next week, see what happens. But instead, like from the first space, we just had this huge blow up of users, the Decentraland users come in and express their interest in wanting to build a better digital world here on our favorite platform. And literally from that day one is when this current Discord channel that we are currently sitting in kind of developed. It just from day one, we just saw hundreds and hundreds of people flowing into this Discord server, all eager to contribute to building in this platform. So like going back to what I was saying, you never really know what the future brings when you just put yourself out there and start to start doing it instead of just thinking about it. So on the screen here, I have the NFT record shop X page open. Hello, Meg. I see you on Twitch. And one question that I did get from Massa Waynes, she is Decentraland's social media manager currently, and please correct me if I am incorrect with the title, Massa. But yeah, she was asking if there is an NFT record shop website currently.
Actually, there isn't, and we've been debating doing a landing page or not, and some different things. And it's always quite kind of tricky to deploy, or to know where to deploy, because like we've also debated doing access protocol, we've debated doing a lot of different things, and so when we're essentially now a two-man team with Abel and I, it gets very tough to know where it's worth putting time. And I know a website's one of those low-hanging fruits that we should definitely do, but it's only recently we've kind of made ourselves an entity in that way, where now it becomes where do we park, and we're headed towards Twitch, it looks like, because of the the trouble with spaces and hosting. We still want that walk-in kind of foot traffic, just like a real shop, and that was always something that was kind of paramount to what we were doing, which was the idea that people can just kind of flop in from the street, quote unquote, and in that record shop dynamic where it didn't matter if you were into buying records or into beats. It was always a spot to beacon to for the next steps, right? To meet people, to hang out, to congregate. And so our mentality really started there, which was having that metaversal or organic kind of walk-in experience, a place just to go and to meet up with the friends in much the way that we treasure remembering the old days of electronic music or raves or other things. But also, it's not just to music. Just like another shop where you had people that would bomb or paint, doing graph and different things. Like we have people from all different media and all different AV stuff going on that we're just glad to check in with, and have been really. It's been great to see other people's creative journey unfold and watch people grow too. Which is after 2 years with how intense it's been. It's been. I mean, it feels like a couple decades, almost a generation has gone by in a few years, right?
Web3 moves so quick. Yeah, I mean, let's see. You had mentioned, was it that you said recently you did episode 100 of the NFT Record Shop?
It's been a bit. We're now at almost 150, 148, but we switched
150.
to once per week instead of twice because it was a lot to deal with doing Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah, very understandable. So, to bring it back to the hosts, I understand that you are one third of NFT Record Shop. Well, currently half, but it started as one third, correct? Could you speak about a little bit about the other two hosts that join you every week or have joined you in the past?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very privileged that Abel Okagawa is a Grammy-winning producer who's been involved in the industry and a professional musician for quite a long time, and he's also got a lot of roots that go deep in terms of audio engineering and different stuff. He's been brought in to do, you know, like tech and different things. He's done recording with a lot of artists, brought in to do the boards or the mixing and different things. And so even with our overlap there, Abel and I have some really interesting kind of co-stories about acts or different people. But Abel's been involved in Web3 music since the very early days. He's been involved with music itself since the very early days, and has done everything from scores and different things like on Netflix, like The Alpinist, and all sorts of great stuff like that. His resume music wise is everywhere, and it's great. And then Mr. Swee was a classic DJ. Grew up around drum and bass and dance hall, dub, electronic, all the best of the stuff that I'm a fan of and able to. And he's from Italy, but was living in Mexico with his wife and spinning down there. And so he comes from the vinyl record age and can even tell you, remembers like the time of when there was a Selecta that would hand the records up forward to the DJ, digging through the crates. And so that's when everyone, you hear Wicked, Wicked Selecta, all that stuff. There actually was a Selecta that was handling the records because of the logistics of being live on vinyl being such a pain in the ass with the huge sound system. So luckily the three of us kind of have that kind of overlap in beats and history and rave and electronic, but also just huge nerds and fans of so many other things. And that was kind of the initial bond that got NFT Record Shop going. And then others who are creators or musicians and pros and everyone in between show up, and we try to make each other laugh. I troll Abel like endlessly. We try to put our what we feel are shortcomings out there and really kill the imposter each week for everyone, right? And like I said, it's hard to preach that doctrine and feel like you're sitting out, because I wasn't really an artist to start. I didn't. All we had was a space and 3 phones, and the 3 of us would take turns hosting, right? And slowly but surely that kind of escalated, and I let it because I was really into the hosting of the show. I was really into what we've been up to. Ended up buying a Tascam Mixcast board, but what I didn't realize is buying that board, it's 48 kilohertz, 24-bit, right? So it gives you the ability to digitally record and sample like crazy. And when you add the decks into that, you have that two-way dialogue where I can record stem samples and then re-import them to record box and different things. But having that initial board, little did I know that was going to tag me into a much bigger music direction and also give me the kind of base tools. And that's why it's good when you're on a shoestring budget to really buy gear that has that maximum flexibility, because you really don't know where your ceiling exists in your creative journey. And so it's good to buy things that kind of outlast the level you're at, or at least set the bar higher than you think you're going to go, because you want to have room to grow if and when you do decide to go that way. And so I just got lucky, or was in the right place at the right time, as you like to say, Sinful. And you know, the Tascam Mixcast 4 is still like only a $300 or $400 board, and it's great. It has the sliders on it. It lets you do soundboarding. You know, like I have all sorts of random shit. We always say like no disclaimers because everyone says, you know, my music sounds bad on Twitter Spaces. We say no disclaimers. That's law. So I got Law and Order here. I got a whole bunch of shit, and it's all, you know, people make jokes with memes and different things that become part of our show's lore too. I mean, all sorts of the movie quotes like crazy.
What is this?
Oh, so that's where it's coming from.
Oh yeah, that's Zoolander. But we have so many people would say random shit like while I was muted on the show, or they would reference a movie and I would catch wind of it. And because Abel and Swee were my co-hosts, while I'm muted, I was able to really go digging in the crates and pull up samples for things, and be able to deliver them at, you know, at different key moments later in the show. And that kind of pinging of nostalgia it's amazing how powerful it is and how funny it can be. Mm-hmm. Or like whenever someone starts rugging, I have the Titanic theme right here. And so I started talking like Rose, you know, to Jack at the end and shit as Abel's, you know,
rugged
muting. Yeah, so it's the best. And like just those ways to entertain yourself, even if the fate of the show is having a rough week, you find ways to laugh along with it and rather than get frustrated, and it makes it so the forward motion is perpetual and it doesn't feel like such a chore. Even if no one showed up, we would still be laughing our asses off when you know, you have a sample or a meme that fits what someone just said.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so, I mean, having Abel with you, I had the opportunity of interviewing Abel on a past show that I used to do about maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, called Music Matrix. And you are right, that man's resume runs so deep that it was so hard to be able to cover everything in just a 1 hour show. Like this guy is an amazing talent, and even moving over to Mr. Swee, like Decentraland knows Mr. Swee. We love Mr. Swee, and we miss Mr. Swee. Definitely one of those talented individuals that has blessed us with his presence here on Decentraland, and kept it going for so long, week after week. Sometimes even twice a week. He would be performing at the True Band Room here in Decentraland, and yeah, like we definitely have a lot of love for Mr. Swee. It's and definitely miss him. And I did want to kind of comment on something that you had mentioned, how like, you know, you the three of you used to get together, now two of you get together and kill the imposter. That is such an important thing for many creatives out in this space. Like especially those artists that kind of began their creative career here in music NFTs, for example. Like a lot of them do tend to be very shy and tend to kind of like not want to display their work as much as they really should, because like the best person to get their work out there is themselves, to market themselves. So I think it's really good that you host these NFT record shop spaces that inspire these creators to come up and, you know, just kill the imposter. Such a great saying.
Yeah, and that's that. I mean, that's where my actual journalism training. You know, I actually have my degree in journalism, and I've done a lot of legitimate writing, but there's a lot of training that goes into being able to seamlessly lift the info out of people, right? And not have them get their defenses up or get shy, like you mentioned, or to get, you know, afraid, I guess is a better way to put it, afraid to overshow their hand, or, you know, afraid to any number of reasons. And it's something that we all struggle with, but as the show's gone on, to understand that everyone at so many different levels struggle with it. I mean, we had Trevor Jones come on and tell us about what it was like to go from a broke artist to a millionaire in 15 minutes when Bitcoin Angel sold out, you know, and you can't take those stories in without feeling a little inspiration even if you're skeptical about your own potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I ever plan to be a creator myself. You know, so far as a show as a creator, I don't know that I ever had that mental image that, you know, I'm setting out to do or create anything. It's more, I'm just pursuing the stuff I love and happen to meet some friends that love it too. And it's as simple as that and as complicated as that, you know?
Mm-hmm, exactly. And let's see, I'm looking back in the Decentraland chat, and Massa Waynes has corrected me. Her official title is Goblin. And she does have another question, which she would like to know, do you have any recommendations on any up-and-coming Web3 artists that we should be paying attention to? Oh, if you're talking, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. I'm just thinking, yeah, Dark and Dark. There's a lot of people you guys probably know too, but if anyone's around Web3 music, I'm probably shouting out people that you know. But a lot of the record shop homies I could name, which is Dark and Dark, Tan Top. You know, if you like four on the floor acidy beats like Dave the Drummer type shit, Tan Top also goes by High End from Thailand, is fire. His stuff is crazy good. Dark and Dark, his stuff is crazy good. Abel's stuff is amazing. Grit Beats stuff is amazing. Autobody, who's having a remix contest right now with Losi. The deadline's midnight tonight, which I still gotta get mine. But Abel and I actually did a remix together, kind of anonymously. We were gonna submit it anonymously, but I can't help but sneaky leaky on the show, so people have an idea that we have something. But yeah, there's Autobody, who's going to be doing some stuff coming up too with live events with the Zao Palooza or whatever they're calling it. Let me think, who else? Luna, who's the community manager of Pop-Up Record Shop, who's been doing really well on Access lately. He's got great visuals. He's got a pass that goes into the graffiti side of things, which is part of the reason we brought him into the shop. And he himself makes drum and bass and just crazy beats and stuff, and hugely talented. So I would say Luna, Gritbeat, Autobody, Tan Top, Dark and Dark. Let me think, who else? Big shout out to Phantom Mode. Big shout out to Ghost Train. I think Ghost Train was the first NFT record shop like official. We hosted, you know, his drop. I think that was the first like artist drop we hosted was for Ghost Train. So just a lot of people that we've come to know really well and really tightly over the past couple of years, and we've got a chance to witness grow. But there's a lot of people to be excited about on the production front for a lot of different genres, for sure.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And probably after the show, I do have the list of most of the artists that you just named out. After the show, I'll definitely sit down with you and kind of ask for their ats so that I can transfer the information over to the official Goblin of Decentraland. And you mentioned Ghost Train, that definitely a tight individual out in Web3, and he recently actually invited me to come on to his Thursday night space with Bobby Yaps. So I'm personally very excited for that. I you know, if anyone knows me, I get very excited when I get invited to speak because, you know, I enjoy having these opportunities to be able to speak and better my own skills, and who knows, maybe one day end up on a stage somewhere preaching the good word of Web3.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll have fun on Bobby and in Ghost Train's show. And Bobby's another one who's just awesome. And those guys have connections more to like the classical world, I would say, and piano and different things. And for someone who myself is from more the sampling side and, you know, hip hop and drum and bass, one of the great things about those genres is there's some of the few with breaks and beats that can borrow from every single flavor of music on earth and can pull that in a seamless way. So for someone that's a pianist, right, or different things like Ghost Train and those guys, one of the great things about being a beat junkie that's into breaks and beats is there's not a style that I'm not fascinated by, or I don't have a way to pull into the decks and stem out and find some grooves and some awesome gems in pretty much every single style. That's one of the things I love about the new kind of STEM movement of DJing and even AI, which people might get on me for. But you know, it's been fantastic to see less barriers to creating and being able to just jump in. Because again, coming from the background that I do, when originally sampling tracks was like Vanilla Ice versus David Bowie, you know, for Ice Ice Baby, kind of lazy sampling, but also some of the great stuff like you know, hearing classic R&B that's in Dr. Dre's stuff constantly, hearing classic R&B that's in so many other artists' stuff constantly, being able to know like what the Amen break is from the Winstons, for instance. It's a 7-second drum loop that looks like the Golden Ratio that was on a battle record, but essentially you can find this break on everything from NWA to Rob Bass to drum and bass to, you know, and it was something that fell on both sides of the pond in England and the States, that you can hear all over the place in hip hop, all over the place in drum and bass, and essentially is the common building block of a 7-second drum fill loop that went on to spawn entire universes of possibility in music.
Yes, definitely. Let's see. Oh, Make has a it's more of a comment. I guess in your future NFT record shop spaces, you're going to have a new listener. Make an NFT is saying that he can't wait to catch some more of NFT record shop, and he is very pumped to you know, join in and have a listen and get to know you guys. And let's see, I do want to make a few shout outs to everyone in world. If you see my my shared screen here, Nate, we currently have 17 users on Decentraland here, all partying and enjoying the show. So yeah, definitely want to show some love to Rustan and Mary Shark. I see that Jim Cedric has popped in, as well as Mikey Z is in the building. We have Tangy over there in the back, right next to Chrono T, and yeah, everyone's very happy to be here and, you know, get to know you a little better. And someone just ran off.
Big shout out to Chrono Trigger, the lost Final Fantasy game that we all know is one of the fitting pieces of the big pie. I love Chrono Trigger. That was a great game.
Chrono Trigger. I wonder if Chrono T's name was inspired by that. I believe it has been. Here, let me, and got to do a little fix here for the stream, because when I went live or showing my screen, it kind of messed up our layout here. But so I guess this is more of a Decentraland related question. Even not even Decentraland, but just overall metaverse question. Have there been any talks within the team, the NFT record shop team, to bring you know, your content to any like digital platforms such as Hyperfi, Spatial, Decentraland, be able to stream in them? Or what are your thoughts on that end?
We were looking at doing one from what's that? You said it, but my brain is fried because it's late. The metaverse there, that's the easy one to jump in, where you can have a little room and everything.
Spatial?
What the heck is that one called? Spatial, yeah. We were looking at Spatial, but the design kind of limits were above our pay grade in Blender or other things when we were trying to figure out like what's the max spec. But we wanted to do that kind of casual listening room, like a walk-in shop thing with the shop. And I would still venture to say we would love to do that if we had a little help. It was just, we tried to do it ourselves, and it was probably just outside of our range. And we don't tend to ask people to do things for us for free or to lend their expertise unless we have that kind of pay it forward first with someone. Like, we're always happy to help people on their journey, but it's tough to ask people who are professional grade at whatever skill it is, right, unless you know that you're giving equal value back. So we always try to pay that forward first, and anyone who's willing to help us on those fronts, we definitely welcome it, but we want to make sure that we're valuable to you too first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we definitely have a lot of friends here on Decentraland that I know would be more than willing to want to help and, you know, bring this content into Decentraland. And this has also, like, from the times I popped into the NFT record shop spaces, it's even kind of been a thought that, like, I think it would be a perfect fit for for everything that we're all trying to build here on this platform. One thought that I had earlier whenever you popped into the general chat in this Discord and I introduced you to Make, I don't know if you were looking at my shared screen, but we were at Make an NFT's land where he had deployed kind of like a graffiti base, like graffiti kid called Beast, like a head, like as like the parcel, like the actual land, and like I kind of saw that as maybe even a perfect landing point to like be able to bring people, as far as like with Decentraland goes, it could even be very hands off, where I understand that you'll be streaming into Twitch, correct?
Yeah, typically we dual cast into Twitch these days.
So it would be something that you could kind of fork into Decentraland, with with just access to a server. And I also know that here in the current parcel that we're at, Mr. J Stickle is the developer here. He's an awesome individual to work with, and he just always wants to help people like grow and be seen, and actually like he allows us to use his parcel to host any events that could be that to host any events who have the interest to come into Decentraland, and you'll have like very good tech support for sure. He has this wall over here, which is kind of like the remote wall, like you see beyond the NFT here. This is linked to like my channel, and then you could click into other streams, and it will display onto the screen here. Maybe even one day it could be something where we could hook up like a NFT record shop button to this, and individuals will be able to tune in from Decentraland as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's up our alley for sure. It's just beyond our capability, but it's funny to keep hearing about the metaverse thing too, because that one of the things I kind of bring to the table with the shop too is the PFP kind of connection and understanding, for better or worse, kind of that side of things in the sales. Sometimes there's been a kind of disconnect noticeably with the fine art side of things, which I feel like the music NFT side of things definitely, at least early on, fit way more with the fine art crowd and less with the PFP crowd, as far as understanding who you're talking to and how to sell to them, and the understanding like what scarcity means and why, how and why people evaluate projects or PFPs as high value or low value or everything in between. Because at the end of the day, people would say things like, oh, the PFP culture is sort of some lesser thing, but at the end of the day, everyone wanted access to those markets to sell, even as they were kind of talking side mouth at or about. But what I found really kind of funny is I'm kind of gun shy about the metaverse stuff too, because having the PFP degen experience, after I did that trade for the mutant ape and a bag of ETH, I actually immediately bought a parcel on Sandbox. At the time, the floor was quite high. It was like 10K.
Oh man!
And within like a week after I bought it, the other side was announced, and suddenly the Sandbox parcel got nuked. Literally, like within a week after I bought it. I'd been wanting for a long time to have a parcel, and it was sort of my goal. And so I managed to get my hands on one, and immediately got price nuked on it. And then, kind of true to my, keep your nose down, keep facing forward, and keep going, I just got lucky with the mutant ape. Gave me one free pull for other side, and I managed to pull a coda.
Oh,
I got really, really lucky again.
Oh my god, that's great.
Even after getting nuked on the Sandbox, yeah, like I managed to get lucky and pull that coda, which later went for like 17 ETH or something.
I remember when those when the other side first minting their land parcels for other side. And I remember there would be Twitter spaces full of hundreds of apes just just in the process of minting, and they're like, okay, am I pulling a coda, no. Or yes, I got one. So yeah, damn, that's a nice pull that you got there with your coda. And let's see. Oh, going back to Chrono T's name, he said that yeah, it's from Chrono Trigger, and the name came from when his best friend said that he looks like the main character. And
Mr. Chrono himself, as opposed to Cyrus the Frog. Or is it Cyril? I think it's Cyrus, actually. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I played that one. Or Luca. I love that game.
Well, maybe could be a good time to visit back, replay. But yeah, I mean, definitely the invitation is always there, to feature NFT Record Shop in Decentraland. You could always speak to me, and I could definitely get you in touch with the right people that where you could definitely find a fair a mutual collaboration or partnership, whatever it may be that you are looking for or looking to do. Definitely my recommendations go to Mr. J Stickle. He's a real one. VLM with Unknower, like, definitely good people. And I also do want to say hello to Abel. I saw that you dropped a follow on Twitch for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're still there, we do have 5 viewers on Twitch currently, so that's very exciting to see. Usually the Twitch numbers are down, but today they're a little higher than usual.
Yeah, I'm big ups to Abel, because there's definitely weeks where one of us is dragging ass and the other one is more gung-ho. And so it's in my own way, I feel blessed to be able to have had the experience to almost join a weird dysfunctional band, with Sui and Abel in a strange sense, because it's just, egos clash, creatives clash, but that friction, if you can push through it, that friction is where great things can happen, and it's never like a superfluous path forward, right? It always comes at a struggle. I think there's a misunderstanding in Web3 that creativity is, for a lot of people, is some sort of smooth sailing, when really it's I think all of us are clawing to make an inch of progress, right? And it's easy to convince yourself that other people are doing it faster or better than you are, when really we're all struggling the same way. So forward's the only way you can really resolve that, right? You just got to keep going. There's no choice but to do the work. There's no choice but to just keep going. And as trite as that can sound, and as hard as that can be to follow on the days you really are over this shit, it's really the only advice I have is just keep going, right? If things aren't working out the way that you hoped with whatever it is that you're pursuing, it doesn't mean you stop pursuing it. It just means you change how, or you keep optimism, or you keep belief that you're gonna figure out what you need when you need to. And if you're trying to find everything in line before you even start, you're never going to start. So understanding that you can figure it out while you're bushwhacking your way forward, I think for a lot of people that's huge. Just understanding that you have the ability to figure it out while you're on the job.
Yep, definitely. I mean, even just this show right now that we're currently hosting, it was an attempt of me bushwhacking into trying to bring meaningful content to, Decentraland, to Twitch, to even just to create something for myself. Yeah, like, I never really saw myself as a show host, but for the people around me definitely did. And yeah, it takes that family that is around you to definitely, like, push you forward, and give you that confidence to wanna to wanna create it, instead of just, like, beating around the bush and waiting until all the moons align, and you get that red moon and that full moon at the same time. But yeah, definitely that's a good message to kind of just push out to everyone else, to just pursue what you want to do, and figure it out as you go along. So I have a question. Since you've been involved around the music space in Web3, and this was a question that I asked to my guest last week, which was a kid called Music. What are your thoughts on Web3 record labels? Like, do you think record labels and Web3 have a place, or do you feel like Web3 is kind of a ecosystem where you could move away from that?
I don't think any of it's exclusionarily true with one or the other. It's that because we don't really know what completely works, or nothing's really fixed the equation in that sense. I feel like it's too tough to say that there's no spot for record labels, because if we look at the history of music, there's a lot of people who exert huge influence, whether they're producers or people that are in the studio, but maybe like a Quincy Jones, right? There's people that exert huge influence on the overall record, but maybe aren't listed or aren't the primary artists on it, or any number of things. So it's tough to rule out who's a creator and who isn't in that sense. And labels, I feel like, go back to that whole thing, which is if this organization develops somebody or pushes them beyond their own imposter syndrome or their own limiting beliefs, then it's tough to argue that there's no use for the NFT or Web3 record label, because there's still a shitload of people that can't take that hop without holding someone else's hand. And that doesn't mean that they're not creators themselves or they don't have a role to fill. It just means that their role as artist or as creator and someone else's role as facilitator or encourager are obviously intertwined, and you need one for the other to happen sometimes, right? You need a pop-up record shop space. You need accountability to feel like your whips each week are going somewhere, and that when you're in here bushwhacking, sometimes getting a sense of your progress, or if you've even made any, is also huge. And so that's where that healthy check-in mindset, I think, comes down to, whether that's labels, spaces, or other things. We've kind of hyper focused on the creator as individual, when the creator can be organizational. And it's easy to fool yourself out here to think that when you see creators doing well, that it's only them pushing their progress, versus a PFP project, which we understand is organizational and not individual, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with I think Web3 labels, right? It's tough to say, I mean, because they don't maybe make tunes, that their talents don't bring something to the table for the people that do. And so it's very tough to delineate.
That's an amazing answer. I usually like to ask that question to any individuals that are within the music NFT space, and to share their thoughts, because like I've definitely heard the two sides of the argument. I've gone into spaces where poor individual is trying to start a Web3 record label, and then like you have the artist that in the past in Web 2 has been fucked by a record label, so they always heavily push against it, because they know of the opportunities that Web3 does bring, because Web3 also does give you the opportunity to build your own brand personally without being in an organization. But for those that can't do it, like, it is important to have that option to become part of a record label or part of an organization. So as far as NFT record shop goes, do you see it going in like a record label direction, or perhaps maybe even like as part of a record label, or even kind of like just partner with them?
Anything's possible. We're tough with, we don't commit to platforms, because Access or any number of other ones have come and left in our time already in the 2 years. So we're cautious about platform commitment, because everyone wants you to kind of take a blood oath to the new gods, right? Every time, and they may or may not make it or go the distance. And that's where it's tough. It's not that you're wishing anyone pessimism or anything, but it's tough when people ask you to dedicate your project or your brand to another project or brand or platform that's not proven or hasn't been here as long as we have, to then say, all right, we're going to defer to them and put ourselves creatively under that flag when we don't fully know them or what they stand for. And it's not, like I said, pessimism or skepticism, because we wish everyone the best with whatever they're after, of course. But committing our own audience to that is also, it's going to be a high bar of proof to be able to try to, for us to try to lead other people to the water that you're having us drink, right? So that's where I think a lot of people misunderstand. It's not like we're rooting against or we're against anyone, but before we're going to go to bat or we're going to go to the table, say, defending or championing someone else, we need to know them. And if we don't, it's not that we're against them. It's not that we're somehow wishing them harm or wishing them not to succeed. It's that we're keeping our eyes open and responding accordingly to what we see with the potential, right? And that can be, everyone has their project or thing that they're into, but you have to be weary, because as we've seen with so many projects rug, right? And if you're the one who's championing that project, essentially you become an extension of people that were stealing, and you may have had every honest intention, but if you go to bat for every project that you join wholeheartedly, I feel like with the percentage of projects that work out in the space, it's kind of brand suicide. And so you have to be extremely cautious and healthily skeptical about what you'll give your stamp to.
Yes, very, very important. And I mean, definitely for a lot of us within the Decentraland community, a lot of us have learned that question, including, or learned that lesson, including myself. If you want to hear my earliest example, like there was a project that I used to go up to bat for, like day in and day out early on, because that's where my friends were. And then, things just fell apart. Founders didn't have really the mentality, the mindset that they preach to have. Like, their actions went against their words. So it's so definitely, I feel like a lot of individuals like come into the space and they can make these mistakes, but in all honesty, it also comes down to the individual too, because like if this individual can definitely see their mistakes and admit to them and then kind of move forward and try to do right, there's definitely like a lot of there is a place for them here in this space, and they can definitely be able to grow a family. Let's see. I wanted to... Oh, we're up to 20 users on Decentraland. So nice to see everyone. Let's see. A shout out to Spooky M. Fermion is also in the building. Crypto Minotaur, welcome. Billy T Coin, so nice to see you. That's also a fellow DJ in the space, by the way. Billy T. And if anyone has a question for Nate, please feel free to drop it in either the Decentraland chat or in the Twitch chat. Definitely keeping an eye on it. And or if you'd like to come up and ask the question yourself, you're more than welcome to join us on the stage chat here in the Community Building Decentraland Discord server. Let's see. I did want to segue a little bit into AI, because earlier you had mentioned that you have been implementing AI into your sets, into getting samples or stems from AI. Like how do you personally use AI, and what are some of your favorite programs or AI tools to use?
Honestly, some of my favorite tools are the ones that are built in a record box, which are built on the Demux engine, which Demux is DEMUCS. It's basically the engine that's running this whole de-stemming revolution that we're seeing right now. And with the Flex 10, which Make was talking about, what's really nice is if you look at the buttons on my screen or on my screen share, you see the blue, green, and red up here.
Mm-hmm.
That's drum on the blue, that's green is vocal, and then red is instrument. On anything that's playing, I can real-time toggle these on and off, but I can also hit Shift and plus Q on that certain channel. So like, let's say for Shift plus Q, now low, mid, and high EQs become the volume control for drum, vocal, and instrument. And so you can have the same track, up on 4 decks with each one having a different stem on it, or 3 decks plus 1 extra for auxiliary kind of groove. But you can do mashups and remixes in real time in a way that you just couldn't before, where you had to have a cappella records or double copies of things. Now what I can do is, on any record that's playing, I can hit Shift plus stem on an open deck, and what it'll do is kick the current stem on beat in real time to the open deck and mute it on the original, and without losing a single, it beat matches automatically and creates an instant acapella for you. And so that I use that so often every day with this rig. And that's not the same as AI with Suno and saying, do me a Chipmunk song in the barbershop quartet style. We saw Lucas from the Pop-Up Record Shop. He's big on the AI music stuff, but he's shown us some samples like that during the course of the show. Like, I want a Tom Jones style lounge song sung by the Chipmunks or something like that. And it's crazy. It comes out. But in a more practical sense, AI music and de-stemming, the sampling revolution that we're kind of undergoing again, it's just amazing because now any record or MP3 you also have an isolate of the acapella for, and you don't have to own more than 1 copy. And you can just, as quick as you can think the idea, kick the stem from that track to a fresh deck and start instantly changing the song in a way that, not to say you couldn't do it before with vinyl, and no hate on vinyl purists, but people get too lost in the sync button discussion rather than seeing how powerful what's going on right now is, and how low the gate is for people to be able to make remixes or jump into the musical production conversation in a way that you used to be able to have to scrub a record for isolates of the lead or isolates of the beat or any number of things. You had to find like the breakdown in the track in the clean 16 if there even existed, or reconstruct it, or any number of other things, whereas now it's honestly Shift plus a stem button and it's done.
Oh wow.
And so just that, it's incredible.
Wow. Okay, nice. And like, are there any other AI plugins or AI tools that you use as well, like in conjunction to everything that you just explained, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, that I'm aware of for sure, but not personally use. This stuff is already for me. Like, I came from some music production background, but I was using Acid Pro and SoundForge, and I was literally just sampling, kind of like the old school way, sampling records in the breaks or different spots to try to grab, what I needed from it. But it wasn't like a real hobby. And at the time, vinyl DJs or DJs / performers / computer people, we're all separate groups. Where in the 90s, early 2000s, like, if you were messing around with SoundForge, your DJ friend and you had very little in common. Whereas now, that ball of wax is so much the same, it's crazy. Even if you look at the overview of my desk here, this has the waveforms right on the jogs, on these little screens in the circles here with the BPM. And so for someone like me who was dealing with the waveforms in other software, early software, and looping and different stuff, it was pretty much plug and play. In a way that was so powerful, I was just blown away. And again, that's what compelled me largely to floor off my ape and say, screw it, I'm ready to spend some big boy money on some gear and start to create, or start to let myself have creative fluency in a way I never had before.
That's awesome. And if you're listening, I do invite you to come up and ask Nate any questions that you may have. I feel like you two connecting could be the start of something beautiful here, whether if it's like, just bouncing ideas off of each other, or just collaborating on some music. like definitely would like to, see this come to life. And no pressure, Make. That's only if you're listening. Let's see. And Billy T Coin says, "I never used the sync button. I reassigned my sync button to switch my visuals on VDJ mixing."
It's such a weird combo because it's sort of like I get it because I come from the vinyl world, right? I come from the vinyl DJ world, so I understand too. Part of what's left unsaid from the vinyl world too is that people who have been schlepping records all this time feel a bit slighted that some of us can jump in and if you've had to chase down a cappella records or to find a clean sampling of the instrumental, like that was like a holy grail item to have. The dub plate pressure was very real. If you had any of these things pressed, if you had any rare acapellas or isolates, you were the one-eyed person amongst the blind in many ways. But the sync button these days to me is so much less the issue because at the base level you have to have good mixing ability, right? Like because of how low the fruit is with this, the understanding is that you better be pretty damn good at what you do. So whether or not you use the sync button is kind of irrelevant because your composition shit still has to be on point. Your track selection has to be on point. And these aren't things the algo can phone in for you or AI for that matter. And you still at the end of the day have to learn your craft and learn the space and the beats and your audience and so many things that can't be taught in a weird way, but it can be learned, right? But it all comes down to that individual's drive, that individual's passion, and that individual's own kind of wisdom and depth of influences, and how much you're willing to just like throw that on the table and say, fuck it, we'll figure this out.
And let's see, update on Make. He says he is on his way, but while we wait for Make, I see Chrono T has a question on Twitch, and he's asking, as AI is advancing and expanding, these models are beginning to serve like employees for tasks like research, coding, and eventually 3D models. How do you plan to leverage these technologies with your plans?
Oh, for sure. It's a matter of capability, right? If it's something that's outside of my capability, like I have some coding skills, right? Some basic ones for Python and different things. But if I can have AI, for instance, do the website, like do a landing page for the record shop, it would be hard pressed for me to say anything bad against the tech just because it got some busy work done for me fast that somehow I didn't earn the work or any number of things we talk about in creative enterprises, like the robbery of creativity or something. When it comes to busy work, we never talk that way. It's only when we talk about composition or about painting or music or something else that we get very emotional and very kind of angry as if Skynet's ripping us off, whereas we don't see it as Skynet has an organic extension of our creativity, or can. And maybe that's just because, again, the tech is too new compared to the mindset that's governing it. And in that regard, I think our best thing to do is disregard the cultural points that maybe are obsolete, or when we realize they are, as we go. Right? When the tech is outpacing the culture, then we have to bind ourselves to the tech and redefine the culture.
Definitely. And let's see. We have Make an NFT up here. Welcome, Make. How are you today?
Feeling good, man. Hey, Decentraland. Great to see some of the family favorites in the building. And Sin, what a killer, absolute interview. Nate, I'm so stoked to meet you. Your voyage is crisp, and your energy is super welcome, brother.
I appreciate you. Yeah, it's tough, growing up around DJs and stuff. I know exactly how finicky this crowd can be, right? But at the same time, I think that's why I talked myself out of sitting out for the entire time I was young. When I could be 30 years into this now instead of one, and it was only my own imposter that I allowed to whisper in my ear and hold me back. And it took years, if not decades, of deprogramming that to jump in, and then after I've done that, right, I feel so absurd that I wasted so much time giving a shit about the people who weren't ever on my side anyway, what they thought about my undertakings, right? And when you look at it like that, waiting for permission from people who don't have your best interest at heart before you start your creative journey, it's an absurd expectation to think that they're going to give you that permission to move forward, or that acknowledgement, that moment of, you know, of Field of Dreams where dad finally friggin' reinforces you, right? Like that's Hollywood for a reason. We have to reinforce ourselves. We have to find our own kind of inner support and our own kind of pat on the back, attaboy forward, because waiting for someone else to give it to you when it's in such high demand or it's in such short supply, pick one, is absurd, right? If you wait for people that aren't rooting for you to give you a go ahead or to cheer you on, you're always going to be waiting. So just go, right? Just do it.
Man, I feel like you're speaking my language, my friend. And it's actually this guy next to you. We were hanging out one day and we decided we want to listen to music and hang out with our friends. And we did an event, and I had been tinkering for a while. I came up the photo pathway myself, and I don't want to overshill. But this guy, you know, I always wanted to mess with it. I've been chasing musicians for most of my photo career. And Sin has heard me fuck around, and he's like, let's do the Make a Mew Fest. And we went for 12 or 13 hours with our favorite DJs around, and he let me button mash an hour set, which I've had multiple people tell me who are DJs is one of the worst things that ever actually happened in music. But it's okay. It propelled more confidence, and sometimes it just takes one or two people around us who believe in us or just throw us that shoulder to say, you know what, it's okay to fuck up and get better by practice. And Sinful was the person who did that for me. He was a huge part of the reason I also started the journey. And I just want to say we would love to have you in Decentraland. I got land and a server. If you ever want to come flex for us, we would love to have you around. And you know, I think there's a real opportunity from what I've been listening in to your story in Decentraland. I think Decentraland is probably one of the most magical places to listen to music when everything's timed up. When it comes to a lot of other metaverse platforms, the way the data gets filtered through it, you lose sound quality, you lose kind of the vision. And, you know, that's one of the greatest gifts Decentraland gives back to its community is the M3, you know, MA3U links, which really do that. So I just want to say, as someone who's a huge fan of Decentraland, Sin, and a lot of people listening to you right now, we would love to support and continue on the venture with you.
I appreciate that for sure. And I know Abel does too. And pretty much everyone at the shop. I mean, that's one of the great things is because we didn't try to pump the promo, the people that showed up every week and that we retained, you know, we really did chisel one at a time. And I think we're at 1,000 now, right? But we were never trying to pump the numbers. And the fact that we get between 100 and 200 with no shilling each week to come, and then when we do push like a special event, we get more than that. We're happy with that. And in terms of Twitter engagement numbers, out of 1,000 to get 100 showing up each week, that's way up there. And so you have to find satisfaction too with the metrics and the realistic goals that you set in these things too, because it's easy to look at these huge pump projects that get thousands, if not, you know, crazy engagement numbers. But at the end of the day, sometimes those numbers mean nothing too, where it doesn't seem to stick, you know, when you throw spaghetti at the wall, and it doesn't seem to bring you the quality of people that you hope for, even though at 10x the numbers, right? So having the right people, or the right amount of people, is so much more important, especially in Web3, to create your base to whatever it is you're going to move forward to.
I couldn't agree more. Well, count yourself to have 1,001. I do have a question for you. And I've been, you know, again, I'm just and I think Billy T, who's in there, shout out Billy T, who's one of Decentraland's finest DJs, and also an incredibly kind person when it comes to this whole thing. But he might have more insights to my question. But regardless, like I joined Mixcloud so I could at least have my set list go in. I joined Beatport. I joined SoundCloud, and I make sure to tether all the artists back. As it comes to like streaming out, what are the best ways to be the most legit for other artists, or is there a game plan for what you guys do to put music out besides like independents and NFTs that really showcase artists and are doing it the most ethically?
Yeah, actually, I do have a great answer for that. Like, for instance, creatively, we all know it's a big no-no, and it's an old wives' tale that Diddy used to have to pay Sting $1 million a day over every breath you take, which is actually not true, but um, it brings up a really important fear, which is having cleared samples at the base of your composition, right? And even if you have quote unquote owned music, people forget that that's the right to own and listen to it yourself, not to perform it out. And so there's whole other, we talk about PROs, which is performance rights organizations and things like that. Because even owning your music, there's other licenses. And one of the things you see is like people do covers of tracks because it's actually easier to get what's called a mechanical license to do a cover than it is to get licensed to do a real remix of the original samples. It's cheaper and easier in some cases to get the license that lets you like replay or recreate it. And so that's where some of these games we see in socials come in with that stuff. But the way that we kind of tackle that is we've had sample swaps in the past, which is because we have so many producers and people. We had one last Halloween, which is called the Spooky Sample Swap, and everyone or a lot of people from the shop, and some people who are friends of the shop, like Alice from Token Tracks, right? She gave us a really great vocal thing from her cutting room floor and said, "You guys can use it whatever you want, full rights," right? And so we put together, Luna, our community manager, put together the Spooky Sample Swap sample pack, and then we had a little song contest, which, again, because of the limits of our organization, having two people running things, it's like we want to do bigger ideas for showcasing artists. But again, at the end of the day, it's tough when there's two of us to do a dozen people's work to kind of plate other people's stuff. And at the end of the day, Web3 music also has weird competitiveness built into it, where people want you to play their stuff, but they don't really want you to overplay it, or they want you to play it, but not really, there's all this other proprietary mindset, of course, that comes with our babies being in the mix of all this, no pun intended. And so I think there is no easy answer, but one of the best ways is having friends that are other artists. When they trust you with their whips, they trust you with samples, and actually citing these people when you play their stuff and giving them their due big ups would go a long way to fix a lot of these issues. And that's one of the things we foster at the shop, is the relationships that lead you to get music from the creator that they don't mind if you play it, to get samples from other creators, like in a shared pool for a seasonal contest, and then also everyone using the shared pool to make tracks to kind of compare with, or for fun, or any number of things. These are things we've already done and are quite powerful in that regard, to both give people the palette to paint with, tools that are cleared, samples that are cleared from high quality people like Abel, or from GodCloud, or from Autobody, Gritbeat, so many others. Alice, who's not even a regular on the shop show because of the time difference, but a friend of the shop who gave us a huge big female vocal that was really fire. And I can actually, if you give me a second, I can dig up one of the tracks from that to give you guys a taste of that too.
Of course. And yeah, I mean, excellent question, Make. Definitely, like when DJs are starting, licensing and credits are usually the thing that is like the thing that they least worry about. So definitely, like, someone such as yourself coming into the DJ space, trying to learn, it's actually very important that you think that in that direction you want to credit artists. So awesome question, Make.
I mean, for me, it was photo, right? Like I came in and all my first NFTs, and none of you do I ever talk about that shit, but it was like the models, the hair and makeup team. I made them wallets or got agreements so I could sell the art. And so if it actually sold, the entire team got the credit for it. So, and I work with tons of musicians who are getting pennies on the dollar, if not nothing. And that's the dream of Web3, right? Music, to open up that door of freedom that's been taken away from a lot of musicians. Well, I mean, that's why I also chose house music, because that seemed to be the most path of least resistance. And then at least we're finding ways to put it on the internet, credit the people where they're making more money. DJ pools or shops, like he's saying, like Nate's now got a new, I mean, I'm in, I mean, this has been the most exciting space I've been in, as per usual, since saving the fucking day, brother.
Well, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you came up, and and you're here asking your questions. Nate is definitely someone that could point you in the right direction.
And a lot of this stuff is stuff I learned in the shop itself. Abel was the one who taught me about PROs and clearances and different things. And it's some of these guys have long and storied resumes, but they have the practical knowledge of stuff like, the whole debate when people say, do you buy your music or not buy it? Neither has the right to play it out. And I think a lot of people get lost in the sauce thinking because you paid for it a few dollars from whatever source you bought it, that you also have the right to stream it or to go on, to play it online. And they're still getting hit with DCMAs on major platforms for music they quote unquote bought, not understanding that there's a big gap between being able to play it or perform it, quote unquote, versus be able to own or play it. It's like why you can't, have a cable subscription for a bar technically on paper, even though they do, right? But you can't have, those kind of, those are public viewing, quote unquote, versus, in-home viewing. It's the same with music, and karaoke DJs and other people have rights issues that whether or not you bought the music doesn't solve it.
And earlier, like before we started the episode, you did mention about Twitch, the Twitch DJ program being also kind of a good thing to use. Could you speak a little more on that, on like all the benefits of using the Twitch DJ program?
Yeah, when you opt into a Twitch DJ account, there's certain things you agree to, and one of them is basically your clip locker is now sort of defunct, meaning you can play stuff, you can broadcast it, but you can't necessarily keep copyrighted music in a clip on your Twitch page. And there's other things, but you opt in as a DJ, and the whole idea is that they will comp you the rights to play it, the license essentially, until your account becomes monetized. So once you get a lot of followers and where you yourself are making dividends, they start to deduct it from that. And until that point, it's sort of a pay it forward system. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you're not supposed to play, and things like dub plates or promos. It's like you're only supposed to play it if the artist sent it to you, right? Not if it's stolen from Pirate Bay. But all of those things I think are going to be hard pressed to get shut down for or get sniped for live. Especially because the workaround in Twitch has always been, if you didn't save your clips or your performances, they kind of turned a blind eye to copyrighted music being played anyway, because, unless you have thousands of followers live, it's really not going to get you sniped right in the moment when you're live, even if you have several hundred. And so the whole idea was, as long as you're not like lockering the music, they were kind of giving you a break, and essentially they codified that now formally with deals with record labels that say, we'll pay you guys the royalties you're due once these accounts are monetized, or if they don't grow to that point. And so they have some sort of blanket license for Twitch DJ-based accounts, which have certain restrictions. And there is like a database of shit you can search, and some of it's supposed to be not play, but I don't see that. I don't see them really checking with a fine-tooth comb live. And it's nice to be able to stream in a way that you can't on Twitter, for instance, without fear of getting your account shut down. But yeah, we get deep in the weeds with the shit on the show.
Sorry. My silence came when I looked over at my Twitch and it's showing a tampon commercial. I'm wondering why though. The reason why I asked the question is because Make here recently did sign up for the DJ program on Twitch. So yeah, definitely thought asking the question could even help him like understand it a little better.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot to it, but and there's people that know better than I. I mean, when I speak, if I speak authoritatively, understand, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's just that I'm surrounded by people that do week by week, and they've kind of drilled in me the proper approach or mentality. And not even to say I know all of the things I need to know, but I know where to look. And so, PROs and the next step if you're going to be playing out different things like that. I'm glad to hook you up with anyone from the shop or the crew that can better answer the question, if not me. But I definitely know the right people to refer people to for this stuff.
Yeah, you got whatever. I'm buying the NFT. I'm in. I'm blinking in. Sin sits through a lot of BS with me when it comes to this stuff, trying to figure it out. The one thing I can say, and I can't wait to hear you get on the 1 and 2s. Sim really's got a great dial-in for sound quality, so I think we're all gonna get a treat whatever you do play. So, I'm in, and it's great information. Like, I'm sure it's even great information from all of us in Decentraland right now who are trying to decide what track to play, when it's appropriate to play something, what we can play in our places. This stuff is changing all the time, and most of the people who are in here, the shop owners, the baby dolls, the M1 spaces, it's like we're trying to do this right and build this the right way. So we're talking about music, but we're also talking about the freedom that we're all looking for here. So it's super helpful. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Nate. And yeah, whenever you're ready, if you have the sound queued up, let it rip whenever you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. And this is from last year's Spooky Sample Swap competition, which we had a big bucket of samples, serum patches, all sorts of stuff. Just community folks gave what they could. And that included a whole lot of like one-shots, synth voices, stuff from Analog Gear, trap beats, vocals in the case of Alice and others. Just lots of cool stuff. And so this track was from Gritbeat and Autobody, who both donated to the overall sample pack, but also did a collab track. And Alice is on the vocal cut, but big shout out to Alice and Token Tracks, Tommy D and those guys. But it was just great because these guys all gave to the pack, and then not everyone competed in the following like track quote unquote competition that we had. And later on, basically we shortlisted anyone that had done a submission of a sample plus a track submission for that. Later on qualified for a very short list of people that got Songware headphones. So later on, when we have benefits to bestow upon people, we always really kept close who did the work, who put in the community time. And as we've gotten sponsorship or other goods, we've really tried to make sure we put those in the hands of the people that most deserve it. So, and Otta, Grit, and some others are definitely some big, I would say, big people in our community who do great music themselves, and we're just blessed to have their support. So anyway, this one's Autobody and Gritbeat, and it was for the Spooky Sample Swap competition last year, and it was using a common pack with a lot of shit in it, and if anyone wants that, we can definitely work it out. So anyway, I'm going to let this spin. We've got 90 seconds. We'll be back. And yeah, appreciate you guys listening.
Not explode.
Oh, and Extinct was on the verse. So shout out to Extinct too, who's around in the Web3 music space. And that was an early draft. I actually don't. They have a better mix down of it, but I was trying to dig it up. But yeah, that's an example because most of the samples in that track were from the submission or in the sample pack, and all that stuff was cleared. And that was from original creators in many cases who have analog gear or finger drums and different things, and everyone who threw into the sample pack basically said have at it, including that big vocal from Alice, which is awesome.
That was my next question. The vocals, Alice. All right, writing that down. Oh my God,
Yeah,
that
that's
voice.
ALYSS from Token Track. So if you know Tommy Danvers, Tommy D, she's on that label. So Alice, it's ALYSS.
Okay.
And big shout out to Alice. And we count her amongst the record shop fam, even though she doesn't get to come on the show as often as she wants. But it's that kind of support where when we said, hey, do you got anything on the cutting room floor for some vocals for the sample swap, she was all but happy to definitely contribute, and we were amped.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Um, it's amazing how, like, from the record shop alone, you could bring so many creative individuals to just contribute samples or vocals, whatever it may be, and kind of, from there, put it together. And let's see. Make, do you have any more questions for Nate?
I mean, first and foremost, how do we get more involved with the record shop and just hang around? I mean,
Facts.
sheesh.
It's not anything too formal, right? Just gotta show up, put up, and show up, and that's really it. If you show up on a Friday and you come play us something you're working on, or you can send it. We take submissions, right? Because I have the soundboard plus the now the decks. I'm able to play this stuff to the spaces in ways that people usually can't do for themselves on their phone, or I can do a better quality. I can do the best of the worst quality when it comes to the Twitter spaces. But as you guys know, with the simulcasting on Twitch being at 320 kbps, that's so much better a signal than the Twitter spaces. So now that we're doing dual cast, I'm even more excited to be able to share some of the tunes that I get week by week, because some of the bass is so vicious, and when it's put through that FM spaces pipe, it's brutal. And that's where we have, again, this meme where everyone says, oh, you got to hear the original spaces quality always, and then we just go, the law is no disclaimers.
And is it this Calendarly link that slash NFT record shop where all the submissions go into?
So the submission, actually, you can DM it to us. We have a Google form that's in the response to last week's show. That makes it easier because it has like an uplink for the MP3s, which I can then drag into Rekordbox. And I've been lucky that folks have been sharing tunes with me and then say, go ahead and spin it. And I have stuff that people are telling me I can play, but not to share it. So in a weird way, there's like a digital dub plate pressure going on with, if you have friends and contacts or people that trust you with their music willing to share it, and as long as you're not going to leak it in terms of the file, they're all too happy to have you selectively play it out. And that's awesome, because there's just so many huge talents in Web3 and in the community, our community and yours and everywhere else. I mean, whether that's beats or classical or any number of other elements, when we start talking about stemming out things, there really is no more border between all these anymore. If you want to make a fire hip hop beat, and an excellent pianist like Ghost Train or Christina Spinelli or others, it's like you can borrow those elements from them, but just make sure that you cite them and that you big up them on the platform they deserve for their contribution. And that's the last part is probably the most important that we try to emphasize, and that's been missing from the equation, just whether that's Web 2, Web 3, or anywhere in music. Just giving credit where it's due to the elements that people let you borrow.
And that is one of the most important parts, to tell you the truth. So many times in the real world setting, artists get kind of like, they get neglected in terms of getting the due credit that they deserve. So it's definitely like kind of good for the culture here in Web3 to kind of push and promote those aspects of it all, like to give credit where it's due, like you just mentioned. So the the last topic that I kind of wanted to ask, well, maybe it's a question and not so much of a topic, or maybe it is a topic. The Decentraland Music Fest is closer than we think. I believe the month of October will be music month, or at least that's when the music festival will happen. Um, would would it be okay if I kind of start looking around for any submission forms to provide to you or Abel so that you can share it at the music shop? In case anyone would like to perform at the Decentraland Music Fest, or if not, maybe even we could do something ourselves. Make just mentioned earlier, like me and Make have put stuff together ourselves, and we rocked for like 13 hours straight.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Reach out to us, and anyone that's doing anything music related, feel free if you're doing a space or other things, just to DM me directly, because my feed doesn't show me what I want it to, and it's just amazing what goes unseen until like a day or two later. Sometimes, like I go through in my DMs and everything else, and sometimes my DM box is a mess from the PFP days. I still get crazy spam and scammers and stuff, but I really try to make sure I go through my filtered box and make sure no one's missed too. But I want to hear about what people are working on. I want to be able to relay the good news direct from the source to my people when they tune into the show, and so having that rapport with anyone that counts themselves among the musicians or creators out here is more than welcome, because it makes my job easier to be a good source for other people.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I know that the music festival is hosted by the Decentraland Foundation, which is kind of like the official team that the team that holds the keys to the platform, to the brand, and usually these things become opportunities for individuals, like to either make either a little bit of financial gain, or it could even be like very good for their brand. They're getting exposure. So yeah, definitely. Once I get a little more information, I'll start annoying Dana the Goblin for more information, to see if they have any like open calls or anything like that. And I would definitely like to bring it over your way, and I'll even show up to the to the NFT record shop spaces, and kind of promote that as well, if it's okay with you guys, of course.
Oh yeah, and we definitely appreciate it. And we're thinking about doing some other time slots too, because the daytime, 2 in the afternoon Eastern, is a bit tricky for a lot of people, especially as people have had to return to kind of more normal atomic jobs in life, where it's in the more 9 to 5ing type of stuff. It's tricky to have the 2 p.m. time slot. So we're happy to hear from everyone. If we also host special what we call pop-up pop-ups, sort of wise-assedly. We do pop-up pop-ups if people have like an event or something coming up. We're definitely glad to talk about doing stuff like that.
All right, perfect. I'm happy to hear it. And is there anything you wanted to add?
Just fantastic job, gents. I just want to say the one thing that popped up, or who popped up in my head, that I think would be an unbelievable tie-in, and you should check out, or maybe there's an introduction. But Stony Eye does live production. He's an incredible producer, DJ. He does MoFire, Mondays at the True Band Room with Shelly Van and Dino. But he also does Mo Beats, and he does live beat creation every couple Sundays, and he's a wonderful person. I could just see the energy and the blend, and hey, maybe Nate comes and teams up with Stony, and they cook up some new beats. I just welcome to the community from us to you, and grateful. Can't wait to come check y'all out.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you. And okay, so closing questions before we kind of segue into our special show tonight after Beyond the NFT. First closing question, if there's anyone that would like to contact you, or whether if it's to say hello, you're doing a great job, or to kind of collaborate, what is the best way to reach you?
For stuff through the shop, it's actually great to DM there because Abel and I both are logged in on that account, and so there's more coverage on that than my own, trash fire inbox, which sometimes it can take me a minute to respond, but only because when I open my DM box, it's, my computer's heatsink fan turns on like a hovercraft. It's so much bullshit in there. So it's almost like when you open OpenSea. But anyway,
Yeah.
I avoid my inbox like the plague. So hitting us on NFT Record Shop first might be a good idea because we're more likely to, one of us will spot that.
Nice. Okay. So you heard it here first. Hit up NFT Record Shop. And second question, in the coming weeks, what are some events or spaces you're most excited about?
Yeah, I know that several people from the community have drops coming up and other things. So we're excited about a lot. When you get in that groove with the community and different people and whips, and you see them coming to fruition, it's too much to quantify for me to just come in here and say, let me relay all the news. It's one of the great things about the shop is I get to be lazy because people show up and tell us what they're up to. And so that being that beacon, I get to sit there and collect the stories and listen to them, right? And when everyone gets in the habit of checking in that way, there's so much that you get kept in the loop with. That's more than the sum of its parts because, then you collab on something else with these same people and, everything else. And when you surround yourself with the right kind of echo chamber, or whatever you want to call it, your mental ecosystem, when you have solid people around, and it's people that are actively doing things or trying to experiment or, create, you end up keeping on top of way more than you thought was possible alone, for sure. And so another way to contact us is there's a Calendly link on the NFT Record Shop main. If you want to make like a time to do an actual call, that should push to my phone. But still send us the DM and let us know. But would be glad to do like a formal call if someone wants, or schedule a time to figure out what more we can do.
Awesome. And final question. Oh crap! What was that final question? Oh yeah. When can we expect the next NFT Record Shop Twitter space?
So Friday there's one, and actually on my post on my page for today's show, we responded from the shop account. I made Friday's reminder already in a post underneath the post on my wall about the show today here on Beyond the Chain. So yeah, there's one there for this Friday's show. But the best thing, one of the greatest things you can do to stay in touch with that account is just turn notifications on. We keep it very low posting for a reason, and it's typically very few and far between when we post from it, and most of it is stuff related to the next upcoming show. And so that'll get you in there. And then if anyone wants to be part of our group chat, we have a Twitter group chat that's like sort of opt-in, where you can talk about what you're working on, but don't spam blast us with links. And about the only thing we make exception for link-wise is like, it's not so you can't link, but tell us about it. Type some messages out first and talk about what you're doing before you link, not where it's obviously farmed to everyone, mass blast type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Try to avoid that. So if you can tell us what you're doing, we're glad to follow it, right? And then you can send us to the right spot to make sure we get there. But one of the things we keep the line between shilling and marketing sort of clear, in a sense, where tell us about like your friend. You wouldn't robocall your family, right, to tell them your kid's being born or whatever else, right? So don't robocall us in the sense of what you're creating, and talk to us like a friend, and we'll come to you and support you the same way.
Exactly. That's the type of Twitter groups that I enjoy being a part of. So definitely count me in if I'm eligible.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone who essentially you're a citizen of the shop if you choose to be, right? And if you embrace sort of the copyleft mentality where we all lend each other a bit of our art for the greater good, and we try not to be too graspy or thirsty, right? It's do first and ask later.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome, awesome. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's see, in chat, I'm seeing that Tangy has followed the record shop. So you have another follower as well amongst all of us. Thank you for so much for your time. And what do you think? Do you think we should kind of segue into the special performance tonight?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me just get a few minutes to go grab a quick drink here. But what do you want? Call it 20 past?
Of course, of course. 20 past. Okay, okay, cool. All right, so that would be like around 8 minutes or so.
Yeah, just so it gives me a minute here to get the OBS set up and stuff.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, that'll give me an opportunity to kind of raid any Twitch channels out to other streamers and stuff like that. So yeah, let's start the show in about 8 minutes or whenever you get back. No, you know,
Okay.
this is Web3. We run on Web3 time.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, when I do that too, I'll probably be off here, and that way I can focus on the Twitch output. You know what I mean? Because I'll probably be in my own Discord, just because I use it to split my screens. There's a little trick you can do if you have like two computers. One has record box on it. You join your own chat like this stage we're doing right now, and you click on the shared screen of your other computer of record box, and you can resplice it into OBS. So that's one way I do that, is actually using the Discord stage to be able to like capture the second screen and have an OBS anchor point.
Perfect, perfect. Alrighty then. Well, either way, yeah, like let's stay in touch. Just to make sure that the stream is running once you go live. I did send you the info, the server info. Big shout out to Make for providing us with that secondary stream that we're using tonight for the show. Thank you, Make.
Mad love, happy to support the growth of all things that we do. And man, thank you for your time and can't wait to hear you rip. Sin, you're fucking legend. Mad love to the Decentraland fam. Let's go.
Let's go. Alrighty, so everyone stand by and we'll get ready here for tonight's special show. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, everyone, and I'm glad to meet another great community that has been out here grinding. And Sin, I've been aware of your spaces and different things, so it's always great to be recognized by someone else who's a fellow contributor who you see doing the work too. So big ups to you for all that you're doing and for the growth that you contribute to across the space.
Well, thank you very much, man. I mean, I've seen you and Abel working hard for quite a while now, and it's awesome to finally have you on the show. And definitely, let's do this again sometime. Like you have been a phenomenal host, and maybe we can even bring you and Abel on together next time around. All right,
for sure.
Well, take care, and we'll be in touch on the back end. I'm just gonna do some final shilling over here. The Mew shop is live, as I announced at the beginning of tonight's show. Here at Meta One Design headquarters, Mr. J Stickle has. Oh, we have a Tank Poco here too. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. We have a Mew button where you can click and head over. Go straight to the online Mew shop where you can purchase your very own Mew hoodie or Mew accessories. And remember, any purchase of any hoodie design here on this website will make you eligible to receive the Decentraland wearable. I just realized I'm not showing it. There we go. Yeah, any of these designs, any purchase from of a Mew hoodie on this website will make you eligible for a Decentraland Mew hoodie. So yeah, keep definitely check it out. this is what the hoodie looks like, if anyone is wondering. The female representation is actually way more tatted up than the male representation. Let's walk over to Tangy over here. She's all tatted up on the metaverse for sure. Thanks to SRJH. Here we are. We're right next to Tangy. She's got a big cat on her belly button. She's got other big cats on the back, some roses, and yeah, she's looking good. So yeah, take care everyone, and yeah, stand by for the show. We will get that started shortly, and I'm gonna raid the Twitch out, and yeah, we can get to part.